for me, it's more about the competition of proving people wrong. The good thing about the NFL is that it really doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish.
Yeah.
My 2 Super Bowls are a prime example of that. There's a story going out there that I will confirm. Notre Dame recruited me on accident. There's 11 DNs drafted in front of me. And years, I just played with a chip on my shoulder because of that.
You get drafted by the Giants. How do you feel like that moment you get the call?
I'm pissed off.
Hey, y'all, it's Pat. Sad to say, it's not football season yet, but I am back with 2-time Super Bowl champion Justin Tuck to come on the next episode of Like a Farmer. Justin, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me, man.
Would you have ever thought you'd be on the Like a Farmer podcast?
Up until 4 or 5 months ago? No, absolutely not.
We've, Jay Tuck and I have been talking about this for a while. Let's start from the beginning, man. Kellyton, Alabama.
You said it right.
I said it right. Tell me about that.
Listen, man, if this establishment that we're in right now was at full capacity, it'd probably have double the amount of people that grew up in Kellyton, Alabama. I think the last census had us at less than 130 people, right? So, I know a lot of times people say they're from small towns, and when I ask them, how big is your town? They say 5,000. I'm like, and yeah, 5,000 is a small town, but I grew up in a town where I knew everybody. And I mean, when I say everybody, I knew their birthdays. I knew their address. I knew their phone numbers by heart.
Yeah,
that's a small town. And but for me, it was such a blessing to grow up in a place like Kellyton because, one, it was just a big family. I don't know if y'all have heard of the stories of you act up at one person's house, you gotta walk home, and as you walk home, it's 15 houses in a row of people that are looking at you from their porch,
yep.
In that disappointment. Because they also know once you get home, your dad is sitting there waiting for you, and there's another butt whooping coming there. So that was kind of how it was for me growing up.
I appreciate you saying that. And I had Marty Smith on the show last season. Marty. And there's something about that rural America, small towns in America that teach you a lot of life lessons. And it seems like when you think about small towns, it's family, friends, and it's football. I mean, 100%. High school football in these small towns. What are some of the things that you learned growing up in that type of community that helps you with your success on and off the football field?
To be honest with you, I think the little things, right? Just work ethic, which transferred to anything you do in life, whether that was, me in business now, or me as a football player, or me as a father or a husband, or whatever it is. Just doing the little things right. Even though I wasn't on time today, my dad preached. My dad preached being on time, being early for things, and never take it for granted. Just what you have, because in a town like that and growing up like that, everybody shared everything. If you needed sugar, or you needed corn, or you needed, extra coat, whatever it may be, it just seems like everyone shared things because we didn't have much, but what we had extra, we made sure that no one else went lacking. Yeah. So now in my life, that those lessons, those experiences have stayed with me, and those are some of the things that I try to do on a day-to-day basis that, in this fast-paced world that we live in, a lot of times those things go on the back burner. But I think those things are so important, and I've benefited from a lot of those learned lessons in these small towns.
Yeah, I agree. And you talk about your dad, and a story that I read is back at the hometown, your dad built y'all's house.
Yeah.
By himself with his,
with his brothers and his dad. Yeah. He did.
How does that's an unbelievable story right there.
Well, listen, if you know my dad, in 1972 he got married and he built a house, brick house on top of this hill. And obviously I wasn't born, but I've obviously heard the stories. I've seen a few little pictures of them carrying shingles up on the roof and all this different stuff. He at the time he had 4 brothers. He had some uncles, and he had some, just again, the neighborhood, right? That came together. My dad was a carpenter by trade. Other people in those small towns, everybody knows how to handle a hammer and a nail, right? Yeah. So they just pieced it together. And when I say piece together, they did a phenomenal job. The
Yeah.
house still stands. It still is a place where my dad will not let me knock it down or build anything. Literally, my dad would not let me build him a house. The house is still in prime
The house
prime
that he
condition.
built.
The house that he built.
Dude, that is awesome. I mean, look, you were 1 out of 8.
7.
1 out of 7
Yep.
kids. And y'all all lived in this house?
All of us.
How does it, like, what's some challenges being 1 out of 7 child?
Well, I had 5 sisters. I have 5 sisters, so like getting bathroom time was tough. I mean, listen, when you don't know any better, you don't know any better, right? So like, when me and my brother would be sleeping in the same bed, right, and I have twin sisters, they would be sleeping in the same bed, and then I have 2 other sisters, they would be sleeping in the same. You didn't that didn't it didn't bother us because we didn't know any better. It was what we knew, right? So
Yeah.
it was like not until like I got to college and got my own dorm room, it was like, I'm sleeping in. I don't know what it feels like to get sleep in my own bed. But like honestly, it wasn't anything, right? It was a I would say it was probably like a 25 to 2,800 square foot home.
Yeah.
4 bedrooms, small bedrooms. Obviously,
Yeah.
they just served as bedrooms.
And y'all had 9 people living there.
Yeah, and then it's like, you know, it wasn't nothing for a cousin to sleep over on the floor or whatever it may be. But we had a lot of land, right? Obviously, and we just play. I don't even remember being in. Only time I would be in the house is like for breakfast, and then for like a late dinner, because everything else either I was at school or I was outside working, playing on the ground. So for us, it was just like, hey, this is somewhere we can lay our head. It didn't really.
Yeah, and it's a whole different, really generation now. And just knowing you for the 6 months I've known you, you're big on keeping your kids outside too. I mean, that's how you grew up. You're down here in Tampa right now for a soccer tournament. But do you think you growing up in that area is kind of what gave you the love of the land today?
100%.
Yeah.
My grandfather started our little farm, probably in the 1950s. He had just came back from the war, and he was working at a steel pipe manufacturing company in Alexander City, Alabama. And he would get off of work and he would walk home and get right behind. He had a mule at the time and a man-made plow. And all he did at the time was plowing about a 5-acre plot. And it was designed to be food for the family, right? And over time it grew to, 10 acres, grew to 15 acres. And I can't remember exactly what he maxed out at as far as how much land he was plowing and cultivating. But it turned out to be like, okay, here's like the community farm where it's like we didn't need all the food this land was producing. So like we would bag up. I remember nights where I'm sitting on our dad's farm bagging up grocery bags of corn to go drop off at somebody else's house, shelling peas and putting in Ziploc bags to go and drop off at a church or something like that. So it became like that type of environment where it became more than just like the family farm. It became like, and like I think a lot of people took hold to that, where it was like they started to treat the land and the land around it like it was theirs too, because they obviously knew the significance that farm had for our community.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying those things, and that was one of the reasons why we started this show, is to highlight the people that come from those types of communities, because think about the traits that they build when it comes to dealing with adversity and hard work. And it's 24/7, especially in the farming industry, as you know. And I think, and I'm just assuming this, you learn the work ethic that you had to put in to play professional football, you learned from back home.
100%. All right. I still remember telling my wife a story when we first started dating, and like she came down. Yeah, this is hilarious, actually. She came down to meet my family, and I don't know if you guys can tell any of my like Alabama twang. It's no longer there. I feel like I have a very sophisticated northeast New York Wall Street voice now. But as a kid, I was I was a country bumpkin that like,
love that.
Couldn't pronounce a lot of different words the right way. Right? I pronounced it where the people around me understood it. But my granddad was like 10 times worse. And my wife she came to Alabama to my grandmother's house and and she was talking. It was kind of like a fish fry, and like everybody around, and like everybody was in their silos talking. I was talking with my uncle and my cousins, and my dad was talking to this person, and my wife for some reason sat by my granddad. And my granddad at the time he was a little sick, but he wasn't real sick, but like he just wanted to talk to people.
Yeah.
And he was talking to my girlfriend, now wife. And like I'm looking over at her, and like at first I had this feeling like I need to go save her because I knew my granddad. But like every time I looked over, she was like nodding her head, like she was enjoying the conversation. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So later on in the night, I guess she had got up and get something to eat or something, and she came to me and was like, why you didn't come save me from your granddad? I was like, what you mean? You were looking and like enjoying the conversation. She was like, I was nodding just to like nod, but I couldn't understand a thing he was saying.
I love that. Oh man.
But I told that story to tell this story about, that same night my uncle told a story to my wife because I guess he was just trying to get her to understand what she was getting into.
Yeah.
And he's told a story. It was like Justin used to wake up at 4:30 every morning or 5 o'clock every morning to go and do his chores on the farm before he had to catch the school bus. And we had a lot of pigs,
Yeah.
a lot of hogs. We had chickens, we had some other stuff, but the majority of the animal on our property was pigs.
Yeah.
And if you ever been around a pig coop, as you feed them, sometimes there's mud, there's whatever, and as they're running in, they'll splash it or whatever.
Yeah.
And I wasn't paying attention, right? I was throwing feed in the trough, and I just happened to just throw it. We had a big 700-pound pig and some more like that same size. And
were you naming the pigs?
I know that was,
okay,
yeah. That's the rule. Don't
I
don't
know.
name the pigs.
Just making sure.
And he ran over along the other ones, and they hit the trough really, really hard. And I ain't paying any attention to it. It was like probably a 400-yard walk up a hill into the woods where the pigs were, because pigs smell. They didn't want them right by the house.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I walked back down. I finished some stuff around my granddad's house, which was next door to our house, and I get on the school bus, not paying any attention. Sit on the school bus, probably like 2 to 5 minutes into the school bus ride, I just start like, what is that? What's that smell? And I'm looking around at everybody else looking around.
Everybody's checking the shoes.
Turns out I had stepped in pig shit. And I had to literally go to school with
what shoes did you have on? You remember?
Oh, there was some white and black, like Nike, not Air Maxes. They were just like Nike, like running shoes.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I literally was like, the teacher was like, Justin, you're just gonna have to, and they, again, community, they knew what I did.
Yeah.
Like, Justin, you're just gonna have to walk barefoot today, buddy. And sure enough, I took the shoes off, I put them outside, and I went and had school barefooted with socks.
That's what you gotta love about small town America, man. They understand.
I know some of my friends are gonna see this podcast and like they don't know this story, and I'm gonna get picked at for the rest of my life about
you thought you'd gotten over it.
Dookie Shoes Justin or something like that. I don't know. Something like that is gonna come out.
Dookie Shoes Justin, man. I like that. So growing up in Alabama, you were playing sports. Alabama football state player of the year, and then 2-time state champion in basketball. So were you playing football and basketball your whole life growing up?
Yeah.
So at what point did you, because if you got 2 rings in basketball, you won player of the year in football. I mean, at what point did you say, hey, I'm going to do football?
Actually, when I went to Notre Dame, I was going to play both sports. And Bob Davie got fired my freshman year, and Willingham came in, and he basically just gave me a sitting down and basically was like, listen, you can be a really good football player and a really good basketball player, or you could be a great football player or a great basketball player.
Yeah.
You can't be great at both. Not when you add to the level of academic rigor that a place like Notre Dame is going to add.
Yeah.
So he just said, listen, I'm not going to stop you from playing basketball, but I think if you solely focus on football, you truly have a phenomenal future. It's going to change your life. And so luckily I listened to him.
Worked out.
It worked out. And, it's funny. I used to always get my basketball kicks by in the summer. We would go, our football team would put together like a, 5-man crew to go play the basketball team. So Coach Brady was the basketball coach from Notre Dame. He actually liked the fact that we had football players who were really, really good at basketball that could come and like scrimmage their basketball players, because we were just so much tougher. And not to say basketball players aren't tough, that ain't what I'm trying to say, but like we were just so much more physical than basketball players, and we could run, jump, shoot. So like they would end up winning the games, but like we could match up with them very well just because of our physicality. Yeah. And Coach Brady loved that because he wanted us to beat their players up, and we obliged.
That's awesome.
So
why Notre Dame? I mean, were there any others?
That's a long answer.
And were there any other schools that were like, because I'm a Florida guy, so did the Gators call you up by any chance?
Gators, Florida State. And to their credit, I was not like this 5-star recruit. I've come from a small town. No one really knew who I was. The only reason why I even got a 3-star recruit is because I went to an Auburn camp and won like player of the camp. But like at that point, it was kind of too late. Yeah. Because like I didn't get really noticed until like late in my junior year, and Notre Dame noticed me early in my sophomore year, and it was there's a story going out there that I will confirm. Notre Dame,
Look right here, camera right here.
Notre Dame recruited me on accident. They went to the wrong high school.
Oh my gosh! What do you? So they just
at the time.
Was there another Justin Tuck?
No, there's another Central High School. At the time, there were 3 high schools named Central High School in the state. Central of Tuscaloosa County. Central of Phoenix City is Central of Coosa County. And you can go back and check this if y'all want to reference it. It's different now because of the mergers of high schools and so on and so forth. Yeah. But at the time, it was 3 high schools named Central. They landed in Birmingham, Alabama, I guess, and went the wrong way. And in Alabama, there's a highway called Highway 280. Yeah. If you get on 280 and go north and south of it, it'll literally take you right by my high school. There's a gas station literally right by our high school that basically they stopped at one day and they said, "Listen, we're looking for Central High School," and the clerk that night was one of my classmates, and she also was a statistician for our football team, and she was like, "Oh, they must be talking about Central High School. You can see the lights from the gas station." And she basically, I'm trying to cut some stuff out of the story because it'd be a long story.
But
basically, she like, listen, the gas station. I mean, it's big, small town Alabama football. The gas station is about to close. It's 6:55. Yeah. At 7 o'clock, everything shuts down. She said, "Listen, if you wait 5 minutes, I'm cutting the show down, and I'll drive you to the stadium because there's no parking. Parking is a mile down the road." Yep. So anyway, they go with her. They go the back way to get into our stadium that literally let them park right behind our press box. They go down, they start watching the game. Central of Tuscaloosa was they had a player named his name is LaMarcus Rowell. I think he transferred to Opelika after this, but like he started out at Central Tuscaloosa. They were trying to recruit him. Their school's color was black and red. Our school was blue and silver. And sure enough, when we run out, they're like, that ain't the same color on the tape we were watching. And I think they said like they reached over to somebody next to them who I was probably kin to. Yeah. And they're like, is this Central High School? And I was like, yeah, this is Central High School. And is this Central Tuscaloosa? It's like, nah, Central Tuscaloosa 2 hours north, my friend. So obviously they weren't going to make the game, so they just sat down and watched me play or watched us play. They didn't know that I was even on the team. They didn't know nothing about me. And lo and behold, I had a pretty good game.
Dude.
Yeah, that's how they started recruiting me.
That's unbelievable.
So yeah, I got recruited on accident, and which is funny because when I went to Notre Dame for my recruiting visit, I still remember it. December 7th, 2000. It was a sports banquet, and it had snowed. And my dad are obviously very church-based, Christian-based family. I went to church every day as growing up. And there's a place in Notre Dame called the Grotto, and my dad wanted to go see it and we drove to South Bend. Matter of fact, my dad hates flying. I actually hate flying too.
I'm with you on that.
Dude, I didn't get on my first airplane I got on was my first game as a Notre Dame football player.
Are you kidding me?
Everywhere else, me and my dad drove to. All of my camps, all of my whatever, we drove. So 18 years old, going to Boston College.
That was the first time. So what did you do when you like got in the plane?
Luckily, one of our coaches, equipment guys, set me right by him. He was like, "Listen, I grew up flying," and he was lying.
Yeah.
He was like, "I grew up flying. My dad's a pilot. I can tell you if anything. I can literally hear it if it's anything because I've been flying all my life." Which was true from him flying all his life. His dad was not a pilot though. But anyway, he set me right by him. He was like, "Listen, he just told me everything I was gonna expect." And like, sure enough, luckily we had a really, really smooth flight into Boston. And it was after that it was kind of like okay, but like I never like I never really got comfortable flying. Still to this day I'm not like comfortable flying. I do it and I'm okay, but like it ain't something like if it's a 4-hour drive or a flight, I'm driving 4 hours. It's not even close.
I was on like 84 flights last year. And it's like, I mean, if you gotta run, you gotta run, you know?
I mean, I definitely not 84. I'm probably on half of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like most of my clients are in the New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, maybe Boston area.
Yeah.
But then like you gotta think about it. Most of my flying time comes in the winter because all of our clients head south.
Oh yeah.
So that's when I'm really racking up a lot of like air miles.
So I don't want to stay on the Notre Dame topic because there's been some stuff obviously over the last couple weeks. You've got the 12-team playoff starting, and they just announced not too long ago the 5 and 7 of the 12-team, and obviously your 5 Power 5 conferences, the winner of those get the 5 spots, and then everybody else is filling out for the 12. Notre Dame's not in the conference for football.
Yep.
Notre Dame's the number 1 seed. They're going to be, I guess, the highest they could be is number 6 because they're not in the football conference. Like, why is that? What are your thoughts on that?
What are my thoughts on the 12, or what are my thoughts on
them not being on the conference, both of them?
Listen, Notre Dame most likely never will join a conference in football, and as a representation of our university, I'll just be honest and say it has a lot to do with 1, independence, 2, money.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that's always been the brand of Notre Dame.
Yep.
And I like it.
Yeah.
I really do. It gives us the ability again to be flexible and independent in like our beliefs and how things should be ran. And if we're not answering to a conference or having a revenue share with a conference or et cetera, then it puts us in a spot to like again own the process of how we want to go about doing things. And a lot of people don't like it, but I think a lot of people don't like it because they don't have the ability to do the same.
Yeah.
Right. So, but to that point, I do see a lot of teams starting to like utilize their brand in a similar way, whether that be the Texas of the world or any of these teams that are jumping from conference to conference because it is a power play. So yeah, but like outside of that, I don't know. I don't know how I would feel about the fact that let's just say Notre Dame goes 12-0, and I haven't read up on exactly all the bylaws of this new 12-man playoff conference, but does that mean that even if they're number 1 in the country, the highest seed we could have is 6?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
Yeah.
Right. I definitely don't agree with that. I would assume like they would make a rule where it's like, yeah, the ranking of the 1 through 12 is predicated on the top teams.
Yeah.
The teams that get in is predicated on the 5x7.
Yeah.
Right. So
I'm with you.
So
if
Notre Dame gets in and they are the number 1 seed and the number 1 team, they should be the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
But if I don't know, USC gets in. And they're not the Pac-10 anymore, or whatever they're going to call themselves.
Pac-10.
So let's say Alabama gets in, but they're number 6 in the country.
Yeah.
I don't care if they're automatic bid or not. They should be number 6 in the thing, right? So I mean, like,
or if like the Gators get in, right?
Maybe.
Anything? Anybody?
Maybe.
Gators?
Maybe.
No.
Listen, I like the Gators. I like people always get. I think people get mad at me because I'm not one of these people that are like, I hate this. I hate Michigan.
Ooh, yeah.
I'll just throw it out there for all you people gonna be watching this. I hate Michigan. I hate the Wolverines. There's only 2 Wolverines that I'll talk to. Only
Which
2.
are?
Charles Woodson and because I love that guy. He's a
Yep.
teammate of mine. And Tom Brady because I beat him twice in Super Bowls, and I feel like I
Boom.
feel like I'm the only person that has a one up on Tom because he's Tom. So anyway. But yeah, so like I don't hate teams though. I'm messing around with Michigan, but like I don't really hate teams. I root for my teams, and then when a team is not playing my team, I root for a good game. Like, I'm not one of these people like growing up in Alabama, that Alabama-Auburn rivalry. I don't hate Auburn. I root for Alabama.
That's who. So being from Alabama.
Yeah, I was a Crimson Tide fan, 100%.
Yeah.
But I didn't root against the the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, whatever they're
like
calling
if Auburn
themselves,
was playing Mississippi State, I was like, go Auburn.
Yeah.
Right? But if they playing Alabama, I wanted Alabama to beat them by 50.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Who do you I mean, going into this new era of college football, who do you like for next year winning it all?
Sheesh. Georgia just
dude. And you talk
Kirby
about
Smart
you hate Michigan.
Hey, I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. Kirby Smart is like, I think he got robbed out of being in it last year, to be honest with you.
100%. Best team in the country. Last 3 years.
It just happened to be he ran up against a well-coached, well-playing, very well Alabama team, right?
Yeah.
And like the thing about Saban and that team, like you're not gonna beat Saban twice, right?
No.
At least not in the same year or like
yeah.
same time frame. He's gonna find some little edge, some little whatever, and have his players. So like, I think Georgia was the best team in the conference. I mean, the country last year. I think they're doubling down on talent because it just seems like this NIL pool of people coming in and out is benefiting them and Ohio State. Like Ohio State, Jesus Christ.
Dude.
So those 2 teams are kind of like my preseason favorites, I guess.
Who would have been your top 4 if you were in the playoff committee last year?
Me? I know I would have had Georgia in it. I just don't know who I would have had out.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, when I looked at the teams, to be very, very blunt, I looked at the team of Washington as not being like the others.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm not trying to like take away. They had a phenomenal squad. They had a phenomenal. I just looked at them as not being like the others.
And Penix, he's from here, this area. Yeah. He's a stud. Yeah.
That's why I'm glad they're expanding it.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no right or wrong answer there. I don't think there was a wrong answer outside of Georgia. I don't think there was a wrong answer. And I understand why you get Georgia. I understand why they kick Georgia out, because you got 2 SEC teams. It's just tough to have 2 SEC teams in a 4-man race, especially when you got 2 undefeateds.
True.
So, listen, that's why I just think go to the NFL model, man. Just, and it looks like they're expanding it to that, right? There is no NFL figured out. There is absolutely zero misunderstanding of who should be in the playoffs in the NFL, right?
No, you're right.
Zero.
Yeah.
So, and again, I get it because they have classes and it's a student athlete, et cetera, et cetera. I get it. The further they go out, the more games they have to play, the longer the season is, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm actually excited to see how this plans out for the 12. And here's the thing though. You still don't really solve the problem with having the 12th, because whoever's number 13,
they might be some dogs, man.
And they might have a legitimate reason. Whoever's number 15, okay, think about it, right? Think about this.
Yeah.
Like, the good thing about the NFL is that it really doesn't matter how you start. It matters how you finish.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a 18 to 21-year-old kid team, right? Like, think about it, how they can mature and get on the right page later in the season. My 2 Super Bowls are a prime example of that. We got hot at the right time.
The right time.
We were 9-7.
Correct.
In a college playoff scenario.
Well, you got hot at the right time, and then there's a couple catches, and
Well, listen, I tell people all the time, right? All that is good and for naught, but you can't win if you can't score.
That's true.
Tom Brady, the most prolific offense ever, had 17 points against us.
Because y'all had some dudes on that defense.
So, I hear everyone talk about these catches and all this, whatever. But outside of the David Tyree catch, listen, thank you God. I have no problem with saying that. But that Manningham catch, people was like, oh, that was luck, blah, blah, blah. Eli Manning used to throw that ball at the end of practice every day. He would set up trash cans on the sideline at 30, 35, 40, 45, 50 yards and would not leave practice until he put 2 in each bucket. Now again,
every day.
Now again, it was free. It was no pressure, whatever. But he had thrown that same pass all season, every day. So like everybody was like, "Oh, that was luck." I was like, "No, it wasn't."
Yeah.
We saw him do that every day.
Yeah. Damn, Eli. Shout out Eli.
So yeah, I get it from the perspective of
you going Eli or Peyton if you had to choose.
You gotta give me more parameters around that.
For as a quarterback,
if I had to go a fourth quarter comeback, Eli.
Yeah.
If I had to pick like who's the most cerebral and like whatever, I would probably pick Peyton.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Peyton is phenomenal. I think he's the second best quarterback to ever play the game.
Number one being
I give it to Tom just because of the hardware, the longevity, him seemingly making people around him better. Like he didn't have outside of Randy Moss and Gronk, which Gronk was later.
Yeah.
And Randy Moss was like for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right. Name another stud wide receiver yet.
You're sitting in his chair right now, man. Mike Evans.
No. I'm talking about
New England.
New England. Oh, yeah, Mike is a beast.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but Mike, there's a place in New York City that he could use a real dominant wide receiver. I'm just saying.
Oh, I've got Tuck recruiting my guy Evans to come to the Giants,
love
man.
That dude.
I do too.
What?
Ooh. No, that makes sense. So we're talking about it. So let's just go and hit Giants. So you're at Notre Dame. You get drafted third round. Third round?
Dude.
Golly. Kept the receipts on that one.
Yeah, trust me. I kept a lot of receipts on that one.
So you get drafted by the Giants. How do you feel like that moment you get the call?
I'm pissed off.
Okay.
Pissed.
Elaborate on that. Pissed off.
I tore my ACL my junior year. I came back a little early. I didn't really let it set because I knew, like, coming off my sophomore year, it's coming off my junior year at Notre Dame, I set the sack record at Notre Dame. I was 2 sacks away from being the lead sack getter in that season. And I blew my knee out the last game of the season where I was literally going to break the sack record because the guy I was going against, I was going to demolish, who ended up going second round that year. But that's another story.
Who was that guy?
A guy named Adam Terry from Syracuse. Good player, but like it was a bad matchup for him.
Yeah.
With a healthy me.
Yeah.
On AstroTurf. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, blow my knee out. Come back. I come back.
You blow your knee out because you think it's turf and not grass.
Definitely turf. I tackled a guy and was twisting and was tackle a twist and my foot just stayed.
Yeah.
So my body twisted, my knee split. So tore my ACL. Went through rehab all season. I stayed in South Bend the entire time and just went bananas on like getting back because I knew like if I didn't get back, everyone's gonna say like, okay, he's not the player he used to be.
Yeah.
And back then, this was like when ACLs it still was like a really, really bad injury, right? Now ACLs is kind of like an outpatient surgery. It seems like. But started the season off great, and then tendonitis set in. So the end of the year, it was just like, man, my knee just wasn't cooperating. So I didn't do the combine. I did combine at our place. I ran like a 4.57 on one leg. I jumped like a 40-inch vertical on one leg, basically.
Damn.
But when you go to the combine, they put you on this thing called.
But not one.
They put you on this thing called I forget what it's called. It's like a Bowflex type of machine where they're testing the power of your leg and your arms and all this. And my left leg was like off charts powerful. My right leg was just like wasn't good. But it wasn't good because it was like something structural. It was just good. It wasn't good because tendonitis had set in and I just hadn't had time to like let it just heal.
Yeah.
So all the teams got wind of this, and my draft stock went from being a top 10, top 15 pick to being third round grade. And sure enough, ended up going third round. And I'll never forget it. one of the DB coaches at the Giants, phenomenal guy named Dave Merritt, who's now with Kansas City winning Super Bowls after Super Bowls.
Yep.
Dave sees me in the rookie mania camp, and I'm sitting in my locker, and I am just pissed off. I'm sitting in my locker, like literally how I'm sitting right now, just like looking at the floor, and he's looking at me. He's like, "Tug, you all right? You good?" He's like, and I literally said to him, I was like, "Yeah, I'm a little pissed off though." He's like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "There's 11 DNs drafted in front of me, 11." And
damn, you did keep receipts, man. Do you know the names of all of them?
I'm not going through them, but yes, I do.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he said to me, he goes, "Well, what are you gonna do about it?" And years, I just played with a chip on my shoulder because of that. And so yeah, I was happy to go to New York. I was happy to work with O.C. Umeor and Michael Strahan and all that, sure. But I was pissed off at the seemingly loss of funds from going from a top first round pick to being a third rounder.
Another product of that damn turf, man. And that's a big conversation the turfers grass. And I had, we talked about, I had Vaughn on the show 6 months or so. Love that guy.
Shout out to Vaughn and his chickens.
Shout out Vaughn and his chickens. But, we talked about that too. Like the turf, what do you feel about that?
Turf?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, I played on turf as a home field for 9 years, right? So, I definitely think your body takes on more of that wear and tear. But I also understand it from a perspective of the amount of money that a team has to put into grass fields in a northeastern or cold weather place, especially with the Giants having the Jets play there at the same time.
Yeah.
Especially with all the infrastructure around, all the concerts they do, et cetera, et cetera. Then on top of that, the cold weather and lack of growing season for half the year. They would have to redo that field maybe once a year, maybe twice.
Yeah.
Right? So I hear you, but I definitely think that it should be mandated that every NFL stadium has grass.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it's time. I think and give the Giants credit. I know for a fact they've been talking about this for 4 years.
Yeah.
So it's not like they're reactive to it. They've been proactive to it. It just, again, it's not a simple task. Everybody thinks just rip the turf up and put grass down. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You have to rip the turf up. You have to dig out the concrete that's under the turf.
Yeah.
You have to install heating, installation, some other things. You have to retrofit your sidelines because now you're going to have these trucks that have to come in constantly to replace it. So it's a lot of things that goes into actually doing it. But I know for a fact the Giants had already signed off to make that field grass.
You're supporting the farmers too.
Yeah, for sure.
You go grass.
So it's kind of not sad. That's not the right phrase, but it is kind of sad from the perspective of it looks like the Giants are going to be reacting to the injuries. I actually think they were somewhat proactive to it. It just hadn't come to fruition until now.
It's a great organization, man, the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I got really, really blessed to play for the Marin Tisch family and that fan base. Luckily we was winning, right?
Dude.
So that obviously adds to the allure and the kind of fun memories.
Yeah.
I've been around that place now where they haven't been winning, and I'm just, I can see the difference, obviously. But that's human nature, right? But I do think we have a phenomenal organization and a phenomenal fan base.
Yeah. You and Strahan back in the day.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Not bad.
I mean, how was that? You just felt confident, it seemed like, going every single game. I mean, there was really nobody getting through.
Well, it's funny because I talked to Stray about this, and
because y'all are still great buds today.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Yeah. I talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
I talked to Stray about this, and OC Umeor about this, and JPP a little bit, but JPP was younger, and he didn't really get into us three as a foe. And Strahan said, "Dude, do you understand? If we all played together at the same time, it'd have been great for our teams, but been terrible for us individually." And I didn't think about that until I looked at how many sacks he has versus how many me and OC have. Because for 10 years of his life, he was kind of the guy.
Yeah.
Right. And they did a lot of things to like get him to one-on-ones, and he could dominate.
Yeah.
Because he was that good. Right. But it was like, I looked at some film with me, him, and OC on the field. You know how many times I would have had a sack, but OC beat me to it, or Stray would have had a sack, or I beat him to it. It was times where like Strahan was sacking the quarterback, and I was like here,
Yeah.
or I was sacking the quarterback, and OC was on my back. So it's like, just take me out of the picture.
Yeah.
OC probably has 50 more sacks. Take Stray out of the picture, I probably have 50 more sacks. It was just Blake. Obviously, as a team, it was phenomenal because the offensive line had no answer. They didn't know where to slide. They didn't know where to chip.
Yeah.
Because you had to leave one of us one-on-one. And,
you had to.
And it wasn't like, the one person you left one-on-one wasn't like an all-pro, type of caliber player. Even Stray in his 14th year still had 10-plus sacks.
Which is stupid.
Which is crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when you had those three guys, and then you threw in, like, we had phenomenal guys like David Tollefson, who was a certified country boy that grew up in Northern California, and then he met me, and now all he does is duck hunt and farm and all this.
Love
so
that.
I take credit for making David a country boy. You had Matthias Kiwanuka, and then later on you bring in JPP. Stray had retired, but like you bring in JPP, and it's just like at that time it was like the 1980 mid-'80s to early '90s Giants was known for their linebackers. Their Lawrence Taylors, their Carl Banks, their those type of guys, right? That 2000 and late 2000s to 2010s, we were known for our front four.
Yeah.
And like, I'm glad to see that we're starting to get back to that a little bit, which with hopefully Kayvon, takes another leap. Dexter Lawrence is an absolute
beast
unit. And like, as they piece these things together, like that's how the Giants have won. We've won on having great O-line play, a rushing attack,
and
a somewhat comparable quarterback.
Yeah.
And then on the defensive side, getting after the quarterback.
Yeah.
If you can get after the quarterback in this league, you're gonna put yourself in position to win a lot of football games.
For sure. Draft coming up.
Sure.
You're in the front office. Who you choosing?
I mean, what pick did I have? I'm a Giant at 6, or am I sitting at 1?
Where are y'all sitting this year? Are y'all
sitting
at
6?
Yeah. So you're sitting at 6 then.
Jeez. Like these absolute questions like this with so many variabilities around, can I trade it? I
will let you trade it for sure. So I'll let, but this is your situation.
Yeah.
You're drafting 6.
I'm drafting 6, depending on who's left at 6, right? Let's just say, I'm going to answer your questions by giving you like 3 scenarios. Is that fair?
Yeah.
If we still believe in Daniel Jones, which I think they do.
Yeah.
Then you throw quarterback out the mix. Right, so let's just say we do. We believe in Daniel Jones. We're throwing a quarterback. We just gave him $160 million, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to have those two. We want to give him time to like.
For sure, yeah.
So let's say we out of there. If I feel like there is a absolute unit monster, DN or offensive lineman at 6, I'm comfortable taking them at 6. Shout out to Joe Alt, who I think is the number 1 O lineman in this draft. I'm somewhat biased, but whatever.
Yeah, a little biased, but. He's a beast.
So like that type of player, and maybe not him because we have Andrew Thomas, another Georgia kid, at left tackle, unless Joe would play right, which I don't know if that's his preferred position, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, and if I didn't have a person there that I liked at 6, I'm trading back and getting picks. I'm going the New England Patriots model of saying, you know what? We have a great staff that is going to cultivate the talent that we bring in here. What can I get for 6?
Yeah.
Can I get 3, 4 second rounders?
Yeah.
Right? Because obviously there's a lot of value in these drafts. You get somebody like me who's like supposed to be a first rounder, and he's pissed off.
Should have been.
He's pissed off because he went second, third round. But you're getting a first-round talent.
You're still pissed off today.
Oh, 100% I am.
Yeah. How many Pro Bowls? How many Pro Bowls?
I made 3. Played in 2.
I'm going to be honest with you, man. 2-time Super Bowl champion. 3 Pro Bowls.
Listen.
Like, I just don't see why you didn't roll up into my interview with a gold jacket. And that's bothered me for a while now, to be honest with you. But
No. Listen, I
that's
am so comfortable with what I've put on tape as a player, and I'm more excited about what the NFL and the platform of the New York Giants, the Oakland Raiders, and the NFL has allowed me to do post football.
Yeah.
That for me is like the only reason why I still have any level of a monkey on my back is because I'm just so used to it, right? I'm so used to using that fuel to go do what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for more monkeys. I'm always looking for more things because, like, I just love. For me, it's more about the competition of proving people wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I wanted to prove every team wrong that didn't take me. I wanted to prove the Giants right that they did take me, but also prove them wrong that they didn't take me with their first pick.
Yeah.
Right. It's not.
Chip
it's not. Yeah. It's not unhealthy. Like, so I've seen something like that be unhealthy for other people. It's not unhealthy for me.
I agree.
It's healthy for me to do these type of things because it keeps me engaged. It keeps me focused. It keeps me wanting to be a chameleon and wanting to learn or whatever it may be. Like, I don't believe in being stagnant.
Yeah.
I do believe that all of us have so many capabilities to do things. It's just like, can you get outside of your own self, whether that be fear or, thinking you don't understand the business or this or that, whatever, right? Can you get outside of that and say, you know what, I'm gonna dive in the deep end and sink or swim? And the good thing about that is, for the most part, if you sink, doesn't mean it's not a literal of death. It's a literal, like, I look at sinking as like, well, shit, I learned something.
Yeah.
Right? How do I get back to shore? It's like playing Mario. You got 100 lives, right? Now I'm at 99.
That's true.
But go back to the shore and, like, learn from what I just experienced and, like, go back and do it again.
Yeah.
Or do something that ties into that that I learned.
I love that mindset. And I love how you're still engaged with the Giants. I think those are all great scenarios. And like I said, I mean, they have some stuff to figure out. Obviously, QB.
Yeah.
They've got some dudes on the team. Talk about QB. I mean, the Italian stallion, the Tommy DeVito and his agent. I mean, how great was that?
Dude,
you know that? Do you know that guy?
I don't. I've met him, obviously, but, like, I don't know him. That's I'll be honest with you, I love it as a Giant, but if I played against him and he did that, I would try to rip his head off. It's just, like,
I love that,
as a player playing against it. Like, I couldn't imagine if Tony Romo or, like, if he did this out there,
Puck was coming for you.
I'm getting that fine the next play. It's just is what it is. But no, I love his story though. I love the fact that, like, he came in and he took not only New York but the world by storm, right?
And then the agent did the next week.
The agent piece of it, like, you can't write this script. Like, if I feel like this should definitely be like some sports movie on Disney later on in 3-4 years.
Man. Like, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's funny.
So, life now, man. I mean, number one, obviously, Like a Farmer podcast, which I appreciate. But you've got, and we started talking, we talk about the piece of property that you got in Alabama and you enjoy being outdoors. I mean, you're hunting and fishing now, too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a bow hunter. I don't get to fish as much as I would like to.
Are you going gun or bow?
I'm bow.
Bow?
Yeah.
You like the challenge?
100%.
You and Vaughn, man, I swear, Vaughn said the same thing.
Only guns I have are shotguns, and they're used for when I go bird hunting, duck hunting, quail hunting, stuff like that.
What makes you so passionate? I mean, you're in Jersey right now, and obviously you've had a great, successful career in the finance realm with Goldman Sachs, but what makes you so passionate to keep this property in Alabama and to enjoy being outdoors? And
well, the hope is, once my kids go off to college and they're settled and all of this, like, that becomes kind of like the place we go for Thanksgiving or whatever. It's a homestead where I build a cabin on it, and it's like my grandkids are running around and I'm teaching them how to fish, or I'm sitting on the porch with a cup of sweet tea, probably not sweet tea, but a cup where I'm just sitting there looking over my lake or whatever as the sun goes down. And those are the type of memories that I've always had as a kid, or dreams I've always had as a kid, of, like, wanting this place. I bought this land designed for that.
Yeah.
Right? Designed by basically from these dreams I had as a kid of, like, wanting to do this as as an old man.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, right, it still serves as like when we get the opportunity to go home, my kids can, ride around and their buddies can bring their quads over or whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
that type of stuff. Where it's like it's not operational now. But I got it at a good price and not paying a lot of money on it in taxes. So it's sitting there and just waiting for me to just add. And I'm always a person that loves to build in phases. I don't need to just go and rush out and do things.
Yeah.
So as we do this, right? The roads are in it. The road systems are in it.
You're cutting timber on it.
You're working I'm trying to figure out like what's next. Do I want to put the pond in in it right now? It has spring water on it.
That's
right.
Awesome.
So like, how big do I want the pond? What direction do I want?
Yeah.
Like, where do I want the pond? And do I want my house directly on the pond? And like, is it going to be facing west? That type of stuff I'm going through right now. But I'm in no rush whatsoever. I'm actually waiting and hoping that the plot of land right next to it comes up for sale, which I think will. And if that happens, then I'll buy that and I'll probably
building a legacy, man.
Yeah, I'll probably start to accelerate a little bit at that point. But I don't want to accelerate now if that property doesn't come up.
Yeah.
So,
man, one of my favorite things about you, Tuck, is you come from the country. I mean, and those roots have never left you.
Nah.
Period. And then you go and you have a successful career, a Hall of Fame career with the Giants. And now, when I first met you 6 months ago, I'm like, okay, well, Tuck's probably enjoying life now, made some good money, hanging out. Dude, you're running a team at Goldman Sachs. Like, now you're in your second phase of your career, working your ass off once again. Like, number one, why? And number two, just tell me how that's been.
You know what? The why is easy, right? I think it goes back to what we talked about earlier in this podcast about how I grew up and the expectations of the platform that you have as a kid. My dad, my mom, just pounding in us about hard work ethic, whatever.
Yep.
So like, as I thought about retiring and kind of like sitting in a lawn chair and doing nothing, right? I don't know. It just kept bringing back to the stories of like, what would Leroy Tuck say about you? That's my grandfather.
Yeah.
Like
Leroy Tuck.
What would Leroy Tuck say? Right? You sitting on your ass doing nothing. That just didn't sit well with me. So like, now it became a question of like, what do I enjoy, and what can I see myself adding value to people that need value added to them?
Yeah.
Right. And I think the reason why finance for me was like, my grandfather used to always tell me, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And when I think
love that. If you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah, make it a shirt. You got it.
Boom.
Leroy Tuck.
Mark that down.
And what he meant by that was, in the things in which we all want experiences in or exposure to, you need people that are gonna go into these rooms and be a representative of you, of your culture, of your story, or whatever it may be. When you think about finance, let's be honest, there's not a lot of us in these rooms, these decision-making rooms, right? So like, I kind of wanted to be, start my process of hopefully getting into those rooms. I'm not in those rooms yet. I'm in a lot of, probably junior level of those rooms.
Dude,
right? But like,
you've done an unbelievable job.
I think when you start to put diversity and people with my background and my thought process in these rooms, it elevates everybody, right?
Yeah.
It elevates, like, for example, me being in the real estate business, or me being in farming, or Vaughn being in his businesses. It brings a different perspective,
Correct.
a different experience, a different like thought process,
Yeah.
right? Because there's a lot of people that says like A plus, B equals C. Well, I might say A plus Z minus 4.5 plus, the width of a basketball, whatever it may be, equals. I'm using that for an example to say there's so many different ways to skin a cat.
Correct.
There's so many different ways to get from A to B.
Yeah.
Right? And everything is not linear. It's when you add all of these experiences, your experience, my experience, whoever else's experience, and we start to really collaborate on this, then most of the times in that, you start to have a more ironclad answer.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of why I love what I do now in the finance world, getting to work with the team that I get to work with, the clients that I get to work with, the people that I get to work with are some of the most successful but also interesting people in the world. And for me, it's almost like, and I probably shouldn't say this out loud because Goldman might, use this against me later, but like I'm getting paid to learn.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot about a lot, but I don't know everything about anything.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to a real estate client or a tech client
Yep.
or a financial service client,
Yeah.
yes, I'm advising them on their personal portfolio, but
Yeah.
I'm also learning about their business.
Yeah.
I'm learning more in the weeds of like what this CEO of this tech company thinks about and how does he improve his earnings on the next earnings call, and like what's going in his mind about the trajectory of tech, or on this side, on the real estate side. So like, yes, I'm getting paid to advise them on their personal finances, but
Yeah.
I'm also getting paid to like listen to them talk about their businesses, and like that's all
Yep.
by either osmosis of me writing it down and going back and doing the research on it, just making me more dangerous
Yeah.
with the information that I have from a 360 financial review.
I love that. I mean, it seems like every stage right now of your life career you've just excelled at, and you hit it right on the head. You learn every single day. You're going into work and you're learning. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
I also think it's awesome on the athlete side, being an athlete and now in finance, because that's very important. I mean,
Sure.
like managing, understanding finances as an athlete, and bringing it back to the like a farmer side as a farmer, just because on how heavy that is when it comes to, if you're planting, you're spending money. If you're harvesting, hopefully you're getting money in, and just financing is so important. My presenting sponsor, Ag America, who they're kind of the pioneer and champion in ag financing right now to make sure the farmers are making the right decisions.
Yep.
But even on the athlete side, like it's just so cool to see you take on the finance side on the next stage of your career.
Yeah, and I think just on the athlete side, it was a no-brainer because I'd been in locker rooms, I'd been in conversation with these guys who were like me, 20 years old, 21 years old, have $5 to your name.
Yep.
The draft hits and you sign a contract and you're worth 7 figures now. That's my expertise is still a person who had $5.
Yep.
Right. I know how to deal with not having money. I don't know how to deal with having a money and having a ton of it.
Yeah.
Right. So from that perspective, it's very important to have people who've been on both sides of it represent you. Right. I know the call on your life of being a big time athlete. I know showing up at the gym or the field at 6 a.m. or earlier and working 2-3 hours with your staff or your personal guy.
Yeah.
I know going from there to the cold tub, the hot tub, the massage session. I know from there going to the nutritionist to get your protein, your shake, your chicken, your meal, whatever it may be. I know going to get in the hyperbaric chamber or whatever else from a recovery standpoint.
Yep.
And by 12, I know by 1 o'clock you're repeating it and doing it again.
Yep.
Right, and that's off season.
Yeah.
So think about in season.
Yeah.
Just how much more of that. So I know what that looks like from a time perspective, from a dedication standpoint, and also I know on the financial side all those things that come into it as well. Right.
Yeah.
So like being able to mirror the two, I think is a pretty interesting place to live.
It is. Yeah, I agree. I want to do a segment.
Sure.
It's called The Biggest Gamble.
Okay.
What do you think the biggest gamble you've ever taken in your life? I mean, you've got your career now, you've got football, you've got growing up in Alabama, you've got Notre Dame. I mean, we've done it all today. What do you think the biggest gamble you've taken in your life is?
I would say either going to Notre Dame or transitioning into finance at Goldman Sachs. And I'll answer the question like this.
Yeah.
Going into Notre Dame was the first thing I did anything away from home.
Yeah.
That was kind of like a no man's land. I didn't know what to I kind of knew what to expect from the recruiting process, but like I'd never been away from home, never been on an airplane.
Yeah.
I mean, Notre Dame is literally 11 hours away driving. So it wasn't like you could just go to Auburn and be like 20 minutes away and go home when things went right.
For sure.
It was cold. It was dark.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody. You had to go up there and become a man.
Yeah.
Right. So from that perspective, that was a huge gamble. It worked out, obviously, but like that could have backfired.
Yep.
And then the transition from sports to finance, where you literally go from being at this level of a professional career to being at this level of a professional career.
Yeah.
And being very, very visible about either your successes or failures. Because when I went to Goldman, everyone and their mom knew I was going because they were doing articles and articles. And like it would have been so easy for people to write the story of Justin Tuck failing at this.
Yeah.
right? Because everybody was watching. Because I was kind of like the first one of my kind of, time frame to kind of go from being a big time athlete to being in this really, I call finance the other full contact sport that starts with an F.
You're damn right.
And and plus I didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew finance. I majored in econ and et cetera in college, but like that was 12 years prior.
Yeah, for sure.
So having to go through the process of actually being a analyst, getting coffee and donuts, taking the series, 6, 63, 7, 24, all these series tests. I hate tests, by the way. While also figuring out how to manage my own money now because I'm in the business, and my wife being like, "Oh, you sure you know what you're doing?" No. And like that was such a huge gamble, right?
Yeah.
But I'm actually looking forward to the next gamble, right? I'm not trying to leave Goldman Sachs. I know I'm not leaving Goldman Sachs, but I also am looking like, what's the next thing for the Tuck family? What's the next thing for Justin as far as like, there's so many things that I get exposed to on a day-to-day basis that I like.
And you got 2 boys growing up. I mean,
and I'm just trying to figure it out from the perspective of how do we continue to build, right?
Yeah.
How do we continue to learn? How do we continue to build? And it's not one of these things where it's like I'm greedy. Like again, I've did pretty decent in my life. If my wife said, you know what, Justin, let's sell all this stuff and just move to Alabama and do nothing, I would be totally fine with doing it.
Yeah.
Right. But like, I also know that like God has given me a platform and some of these experiences, this Rolodex, this whatever it may be, and I don't want to look back and regret that I didn't try to maximize whatever that was.
For sure, yeah.
Whether that's, and again, a lot of times we're in a capitalistic world, but like it ain't always about money. It's a lot of times it's about impact. A lot of times it's about legacy. A lot of times it's about experiences. A lot of times it's about how do you go in a room and represent for those people that couldn't get into that room?
Yep.
And those are the type of things that it's funny. It helps me go to sleep at night, but it also keeps me up at night.
Yeah.
Right? No. You know what I mean? Because I feel like we're doing things the right way, or at least trying to do things the right way.
Yeah.
That's the part of it that gets me calm and go to sleep.
Yeah.
But I also think that there's so much more out there that we haven't been exposed to or haven't taken advantage of being exposed to. And that's what keeps me up at night. And it's a fun yin and yang.
Yeah, for sure. I love that, man. I love you. Proud to call you a friend. I appreciate everything that you have done and you are doing. I appreciate you coming on the show because you understand what I'm trying to do. Yep. And you come from the people that I'm trying to highlight, which is rural America, and celebrate them. And no matter what life brings them, they stay to their roots. And it seems like they're successful because of how they were growing up, how they're raised, hard work, dealing with adversity. I mean, you embody all of those traits of the people that I'm trying to shed light with this show. So I appreciate you coming on the show, man. I really do.
And I appreciate you doing this, right? And I also appreciate you, not writing me off when it took us 4 or 5 months to actually find a date to make this work. So yeah, this is cool, man. I truly appreciate you having me and sharing my story.
Two-time Super Bowl champ Justin Tuck, thanks for coming on the show, and thanks Okinola, this beautiful restaurant behind me here in the great city of Tampa, Florida. Andy and his team, they've got a great spot over here. So if you're ever in the Sunshine State, you know where to come. But as always, like, comment, share, subscribe, do whatever you got to do to be like a farmer.